So I've been thinking a lot about time travel, time machines. They've been coming up a lot on social media in relation to the COVID outbreak. My favorite time travel meme is this one. It turns out that time travel is real, and somebody keeps coming back from the future to try to fix 2020. And every time they do, they make it worse. I mean, how else are you going to explain murder hornets? There's a lot of problems with time travel if you think about it. From if you go back into the past and accidentally kill your grandfather so that you can't get born, or if you go into the future hoping to cash in on your investments and you land in what turned out to be the world's biggest recession ever, well, time travel is pretty problematical. And I'm glad for the most part that it lies in the realm of science fiction. But short-term time machines, those are real. Those are actual things, and I've been using them for a long time. They get me from now to a place an hour or 2 or 3 hours away from now. When I was a young teen, I spent a week at an aquatic summer camp, and most of the time I was miserable. I'm sure it was good for me. My swimming skills got better, certainly my ability to maneuver a canoe single-handedly. But the fact is, I don't like to be wet. I don't like to be cold. And I really don't like that part of learning skills where I feel like I'm in over my head. So instead of engaging in this whole experience and embracing it and getting the most that I could out of it, I approached every cold, hard, wet practice session with a very narrow focus, determined to do only as much physical activity as I could, and only that for the 2 hours that I had to do it until it was done, and then the 2 hours would be over. And then I'd go on to the next 2 hours. And then I'd go on to the next 2 hours. And the 2 hours would all add up. And after a while, the week would be over and I would be home and warm and dry. It was a time machine. When my dad died, young and unexpectedly, there were a lot of hours that I didn't want to participate in. It's not that they were all intensely grief-filled hours, but they were long, and I just didn't want to do them. So I started reading the Hardy Boys mysteries that lined a shelf in my parents' house. I began with The Tower Treasure and worked my way through all 25 books that were on that shelf. Now, I was 26 years old, and this was not my normal reading habit, but it was what I could handle at the time, and they made great time machines. I dive in at one end, immerse myself in the story, adventures ensue, the good guys win, climb out of the other end, and there were 2 or 3 hours that I didn't have to live in the present. Time machines are really useful for those periods of trauma or grief or uncertainty when it's too soon to process what's happened, when it's too soon to figure out who it is you're going to be now, when the goal is just survival. The global pandemic has been traumatic and continues to be traumatic for all of us on so many different levels, physically, socially, emotionally. And it has greatly proliferated the use of time machines. Look at social media. Facebook alone is a time machine. Start scrolling at 7:20. The next thing you know, it's 10:45 or 12:30. People are posting all over social media the things that they've been doing to keep themselves amused and help the time pass during lockdown. Cooking is huge. Baking, cookies, cakes, candies, croissants, the world of healthy eating, full-on keto, vegetarian delights, back to the sweets, anything with chocolate or caramel or both or bacon. Some people turn to nature. They go for long walks in the woods or along the seashore, or they plant things and help them grow. These are all time machines, as are do-it-yourself projects, adult coloring books, watching the entire 23-film canon of the Marvel Universe in one weekend. My go-to time machine is therapeutic cleaning. Therapeutic cleaning involves attacking things that you haven't looked at for a while, and I started with the bookshelves. I have books in my house. I have thousands of books. There are floor to ceiling bookcases in every room except for the bathroom and the kitchen, and I hit every one. And I didn't just dust the front and the top. I had my hand on every book, pulled it out, dusted it all around, dusted behind it on the shelves, put it back. I reshelved anything that was out of place because, of course, they're all shelved by genre and author. And then I found places to put the books that were in stacks all around the house. It was so satisfying, and it took a lot of time. And then I went to the closets. I wanted to build closets in a shelf to put the Oktoberfest stuff in. Pre-COVID, for 15 years, we've hosted an Oktoberfest sit-down dinner for about 25 people, and all the extra stuff is stored in tubs in the basement. Dishes, bowls, plates, platters, pitchers, silverware, stemware, glasses, everything you could imagine. But I have to say, it gets harder and harder to haul those tubs up the stairs. And I thought, shelves on the first floor, that's a good idea. That meant I first had to clean out the closet where I was going to put the shelves. And that meant I had to clean out another closet to put it in. And that closet was completely filled with stuff that had been left there by children who have not lived in this house for 15 years. Most of it trash, to be honest. But it still meant I had to clean the children's rooms who had not been living in this house for 15 years in order to find a place to stow whatever part of that was salvageable. So then go back to the first closet, take all the stuff, move it to the second closet, build the shelves, and then head to the basement to get the tubs of Oktoberfest stuff, which meant cleaning the basement. Well, so it went. And by the time I was done, I had deep cleaned every room in my house except for the bathrooms because, well, bathrooms, and I have my standards. But 2 months had passed. And during those 2 months, I had done nothing creative. I had done important and useful work along with the therapeutic cleaning, but it was all task and process because I didn't want to think. Because I was dealing with not only the trauma of pandemic, but also with the death of my sister-in-law, a wonderful, extraordinary woman whom I had loved dearly and who had been a part of our family for 47 years, and whose death coincided precisely with pandemic and lockdown. After her memorial, we raced across the country on practically empty highways, dashing into ghost town-like service plazas just for gas and bathrooms, and making our way back to Michigan on the very night that the entire state locked down. And life and normalcy, including whatever was normal about grief, took a sharp turn to somewhere else, and I started looking for time machines. And then after 2 months, I woke up one morning and I took a breath. I began poking around at a story that had been percolating in my head for over a year. I rolled around in it. I found the heart of the story and I finished it. So I'm back, right? Yay. Well, it's not that easy or that fast. Returning to a at least partially creative life is coming in fits and starts, more fits than starts. In order to be creative, I have to be present in my head. I have to be open to all of the feelings. And when the anxiety gets too much, when the hurt gets too much, when the emotions get too much, I choose not to go there. That may sound an awful lot like denial. Yeah, it is. Denial gets a bad rap. My brother says, denial is that state that you have to be in until you have the wherewithal to face that which you must face. So I say, be there. Be there as long and as often as it takes. So in June, I began gardening. Now, for some people, gardening is a creative activity that puts their souls in touch with the universe. But not me. I cleaned out flower beds. I raked. I hauled out dead things. I chucked out rocks. I retrieved overgrown bushes and trees along the whole east side fence of our property. I pruned, I chopped, I hacked. I attacked the forsythia jungle and beat it back. I wasn't gardening. I was doing outdoor therapeutic cleaning. And after a month, I climbed out of that time machine. I talked to my brother. I thought about my sister-in-law, and I began poking at another story. So it's January now. I'm still mourning the loss of my sister-in-law. Grief will take its own time. The pandemic continues to rage, but there is hope in the offing. 2020 was hard on all of us in so many ways, but I think we are beginning to remember goodness and kindness. And over this last year, I've spent a lot of time in time machines, moving myself by hours, days, and weeks into the future. These are not the last hard times that I'm going to see in my life, perhaps not the hardest. I'm pretty sure that whatever comes, I'll be cleaning my way through it. Maybe if times get hard enough, I'll even clean the bathrooms.